Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 13 of Amateur Hour Podcast. We have made it to, over the halfway point of the season here. The season is cruising along. It's kind of a depressing thing to talk about at this point, so we're not going to talk about it. It's kind of like one of those situations where you're on vacation. It's like Wednesday in the middle of the week, and you don't want to talk about the fact that it's Wednesday in the middle of the week. You want to just kind of, look forward to the things you're going to do for the rest of the vacation and not just reminisce on the things that are almost coming to an end. So we're not going to talk about how it's almost coming to an end, even though I just did. We're gonna just look forward to the last. What are there 5, 6 weeks left in the season? 6 weeks, including this week. So, thank you, Roger Goodell, for extending the NFL season for one more week because we just need it like heroin. So, appreciate that. Welcome on, John. This week we do not have a guest. Sorry, Nick Diltz. Congratulations on your win, but we figured you could talk about the win on your other platform. So,
And I don't think he'll listen, so he probably won't even know.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I do want to say, thank Roger Goodell as well, because I think thanks to him, we'll probably get an extra 10 or 12 views for the season. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, thank you, Roger. He's really looking out for the little people like us. So
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
they always say about Roger. He's a good guy. So pat yourself on the back, Raj.
Yeah, we haven't really contributed any revenue to the NFL quite yet, but that is the long-term goal to be.
Wouldn't you say we like I don't know how to say it. We indirectly contribute revenue because we're sharing the love of NFL that we have to the YouTube and Spotify platforms. And even though some people that listen already love NFL, maybe we're introducing this love to other people that wouldn't normally listen or watch NFL.
Yeah, that could be. My wife uh, gets to watch a lot of NFL because she married me. Probably Jackie, your girlfriend, would say the same. But I do think that because of the pick'em, more people watch games they wouldn't normally in our pick'em league for sure. Because if it's a shitty Sunday night game or Monday night game, usually you don't give a rip. But if it's close in the pick'em, you're really rooting for your team to pull it out. So
Yeah, I've also learned, I think we're also contributing to the gambling, world because I've learned that throughout the season, if I have the opportunity, if I'm going into a late game, like a Sunday or Monday night, and I'm close in the pick 'em, I'll put money on the opposite of what my
you
picks
hedge
are.
it.
So I hedge it, so it's a win-win, and I made the critical mistake early on in the pick 'em season where I just doubled down on my picks and I bet on those. So then I doubled my losses. I lost the picks and I lost my bets. And
Okay.
a wise friend of both of us, Max Pilkerton, told me
Yeah.
that was a terrible idea. So thank you, Max. And now I've been hedging, and it's been much more successful for me.
That is a Max Pilkington move, but unfortunately this season he hasn't been in the top where he can do that. You know what I mean? He's
Yeah,
always like 3 games out, so it doesn't really benefit him.
early on he had a lot of success.
Yeah.
I think early in the first half of the season he was always up there like top three. He was like
Hmm.
maybe not winning, but he was taking second a lot and taking third a lot. I don't know how he's doing money wise. He's got to be probably broken even at this point.
No way. This
On it.
year?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're forgetting.
Oh.
I think you're having short term memory because I think early on he took second twice at least, and third maybe once or twice. We're gonna have to check in on that and get back to
Yeah,
the
we'll have to
listeners
check.
because I think
But
he's
some
close.
guys that I have been silent this year. We haven't seen anything from Nirvana. I gotta.
I haven't heard a single peep from Nirvana since the season started. I haven't talked to Nirvana since your wedding, actually.
Yeah, we gotta call him. Maybe we could title the episode "Where is Nirvana?" That could be the title of the episode.
Yeah, I think I really would like to see Nirvana get a win. I'd also like to
Yeah.
see Jake Sepka get a win so they can both come on the podcast and share their thoughts. Because both of those guys, they've been really clawing to get that first place award, and I don't think Nirvana's really been close. He's kind of one of those guys that
No.
tries to, they talk themselves up, say I'm going to climb Mount Everest, and they get there and they buy all the expensive gear, they get the Sherpa, and they don't make it past the first checkpoint. That's kind of what Nirvana's been this season.
They say, my lungs can't take this altitude, and they're like,
Yeah,
maybe this isn't for me.
they say, wow, this is a lot harder than I thought, and that's been Nirvana.
But I think everyone would probably say, if you are a gambling addict, this fills the void. It's like if you're, say, you're trying to get off of heroin and they give you Suboxone, like that's what this is.
This is like more like you find fentanyl on the street, so like it's maybe a little bit better than heroin, but it's still, not a good thing to be taking part of.
It does bring people together. Where sometimes when you're gambling by yourself, that can be a very lonely road. Especially when you get those shitter shitter stretches where you're losing. It seems like everything you pick, the universe is having the opposite happen. You know?
But you know what it also reminds me of is when since it's a pick'em league and you're kind of competing against each other for the money in the end. It's almost like when you go to a party or a watch party or something or a bar and you gamble on something and the opposite happens and your buddy has money on the opposite. That's kind of what it's like, because like you're seeing them happy about the outcome when
Right.
you're devastated by the outcome. So it's kind of like I went to a Super Bowl party with my family. It was the Chiefs Buccaneers with when Tampa won their first Super Bowl, and I made the mistake of betting on the Chiefs, and I bet heavily on the Chiefs. And my brother bet heavily on the Buccaneers, so he was having a field day, with that Super Bowl win, and I was really just having a tough time. So
And that was the one where Mahomes was injured and he didn't throw a single. There was no touchdowns by the Chiefs, correct?
yeah, they really sucked.
Yeah. That also reminds me of, do you remember when Adam Wiegman, we played that game where you passed the cup every time there was a change of possession at the last Super Bowl party
Yeah,
that we were at? It basically, the rules were if there's a touchdown scored, or no, it was a change of possession, and that was it, wasn't it?
I
And
thought it,
you
I
would
thought it was change of possession, so that counts as like a touchdown, a
field
punt,
goal,
turnover, field goal.
interception, and you would
Yeah,
pass the cup. And for some reason, Adam Wiegman was in the kitchen, didn't watch maybe but 2 minutes of the game, comes in, sits down, and the cup lands on him, and he wins like $220.
yeah, he won
Which,
like twice, I think.
yeah, him and Claire won, I think. And we did it for like every quarter, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's all about where you're sitting really, and where the cup
Right.
starts.
But he did host, so I think that was a little maybe fair. You weren't too upset. But I do get upset when Adam Wiegman wins anything. I don't know why.
That's just some of that good Roger Goodell karma coming at him because he was such a nice guy to host.
Yeah. What's your relationship report for the week?
Um, yeah, this week, luckily we were recording this podcast late because I earned some extra bonus points yesterday. Took Jackie to the airport. She's in Las Vegas now. I've been trying to text her some of my NFL picks, but she just seems to be ignoring my choices. I think she knows how bad of a gambler I am, so she's not putting any bets in for me. Um, but I took her to the airport. We had to leave here at like 4:30 in the morning, so that was pretty brutal. That was an early wake up call. Earned some bonus points for that. So overall in the week, I earned an 8 for the week.
Nice. Yeah, Carla gave me an 8. I got her coffee this morning, which actually I think she was kinder to me than I deserved, because I literally she made the coffee and she needed a refill, so I walked like 8 feet to get the coffee cup refilled and pull it out of the pot. And then I did make the majority of dinners, and then I got minus points because I had ice cream for breakfast this morning.
That should not give you minus points. You're a grown man. You can do whatever you want.
2 bowls. I think she just didn't like to hear me slurping it down while she's watching TV.
Yeah, it's annoying to hear like the spoon clank around in the bowl, I think.
Yeah, the
So
spoon always clinking. Yeah, I'm a pretty
and
loud
you're
eater,
you're a
so
guy that likes it's you're like you like to get every last scrape out of that bowl. I've
yeah.
eaten ice cream with you.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of scraping going on.
Way too much scrape. Maybe you should invest in some
Oh,
plastic spoons. Maybe there will be less noise.
yeah.
You
Or I
thought
could
about
just
that?
take my tongue and just, lick the outside of the
It's
bowl.
quite the visual for the poor people that are watching on YouTube. I
Yeah.
apologize.
The people on Spotify should be thankful though.
Yeah, yeah. See, that just will help you figure out which platform to really watch this show on.
Um, okay, pick'em results from last week. Nick Diltz, we shit on him the prior episode, and that motivated him. He finished with the W. He tied with Bo in the points, but he beat him in the. It's kind of like the Price is Right. He just edged him out enough. He had 38 as the tiebreaker. Bo had 36.
Oof, it's
Bo,
close.
yeah, and that game I think was like maybe 42 or 46 points. Bo got second again, and I squeaked out third. I actually meant to pick the Colts, because I thought that Nick and Bo would pick the Steelers and forgot to switch it, so it worked out in my favor.
That's lucky.
It is. Better be lucky than good. So, yeah, it was nice to get third. Bo has dominated this year. I mean, I don't know. I feel like he's gotten second another time, but he's at least made $120 this season. So it's been a real turnaround for Bo this year, and he is leading overall the league at the top. He is 101 and 80, which is very impressive. That is in the 98th percentile of all pick'em players in the country. So,
Yeah, a lot of the people that have you noticed a lot of people that we were talking shit about before the season and even mid-season are really struggling, or sorry, they were struggling
hyped up.
and now they're having a lot of success.
Yeah,
So,
and the
so
ones we
Bo,
hyped up been the opposite.
yeah, Bo was really struggling last year. I really gave him, the runaround before the season started, and he's had a ton of success this season. So Bo, I tip my cap to you, buddy.
And then second overall currently on the season, Stillman with 100 correct and Michael Harvey with 99 correct. So Michael does want to get that first place spot and actually earn his way onto the podcast. So maybe he can do it the last couple weeks here. One thing I find interesting is that Will Cleveland's won 2 weeks and he's 86 and 95. He's under 500. So he's a very hot or cold guy. He's not consistently at the top. He
Yeah,
kind of just explodes one week and then he's cool. He loses all his energy the rest. But
I've sucked my way right down to almost 500 now. I'm 91 and 90. And I was having a lot of success, and now I've just been like choking as of late. So hopefully I can get it turned around.
yeah, I want to see how you did. What'd you do? How'd you do last week?
I was
You were
like
towards
third last. I was towards the bottom. I was a bottom Peter with Nirvana, I think, probably. Safe
yeah,
to assume.
Nirvana.
Safe to assume Nirvana's towards the bottom.
You got 5 right. Nirvana got 4 right out of 16. That's pretty bad, man. That's 25%.
There were a lot of games that were decided by like a half a point too, which was super annoying. Last week
Yeah,
was really had some really close ones with like the Chargers, Cardinals. Chargers ended up winning by 1. The spread was 1.5. Packers, Eagles, that was 7.5. The
that
game
was
was seven
pissed. That
points.
pissed me off, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of close games with the spread.
Shitty ass Packers can't lose by more than 7. I mean, what a bunch of bullshit.
That Giants like late cover on Thanksgiving was they that was another close one. The
Dirty.
Buccaneers shit down their pants against the Browns. They should have had that spread covered.
Yep.
Anyways, I'm sick of looking in the past. Actually, what was your surprise game of the week before we move on?
Oh yeah, surprise game last week for me was mm, trying to remember if there were any big upsets. Oh yeah. Yeah, I guess for a lot of people I know the Buccaneers were favored and they handled the Browns handled them. So that was
Did you watch
surprising.
did you watch the game?
I actually did watch a little bit of it and from what all it looked good and I think they had a lot of success running the ball, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, but the Buccaneers like had it pretty much in the bag, and then they just like took their foot off the gas. And then at the
Oh,
very
that
end,
went
the
in
Browns
overtime.
the Browns scored a touchdown at the end of regulation to tie it, go to overtime, and then the Browns won in overtime.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that was an overtime one. I think I was at the bar watching that. We went to there's a distillery right near here, so we went and had Bloody Marys and watched it. So
I think my surprise game of the week was the Seahawks Raiders game. Seahawks have
yeah,
been playing really well. It was at home. I mean, we all know about Seattle's home field advantage. Um, Kenneth Walker, Geno Smith. I think the Seahawks were coming off a bye too, I want to say, so they like had some time to prepare. But the Raiders, they came out and they smacked them in the mouth, and that was another game that went to overtime, and Josh Jacobs just kind of put the team on his back and had that late long touchdown run to win it against Seattle at Seattle. So I wasn't surprised that the Raiders covered the spread, but I was pretty surprised that they won. I thought the Seahawks would at least win the game.
I will say that was I didn't watch the game, but I saw the replay, and I do like the walk off touchdowns by the running backs. I just think it's like a real middle finger to the other team, and you don't see it as often in the NFL anymore. When
Especially
it
long
usually,
ones like that. Is that what you're
yeah,
talking
like
about?
yeah, that's what I mean. You see it more in college. I feel like I've seen it a few times in college, but the the walk-off touchdown, to end the game. That's got to hurt if you're a defense.
A lot of the times, yeah, you're right. It goes to overtime in the NFL, and then there's like a three and
Yeah.
out, and then someone gets a field goal and wins it. Like,
Right. Or
I'd
it's
really like to see them implement college rules for overtime in the NFL, but maybe put them back like on like the 50 or something like that. So that
yeah,
what I don't like about college is it's basically an automatic field goal if you get like a three and out, and I don't like
yeah,
that. I think you should have to get like a first down, and then you can
or
get a
two.
field goal. Yeah, or two first downs because you can't make it too easy. But I also like the fact in college that both teams have a fair shot.
Yeah, I think that would be cool if put them at the 50 or even their own 45 or something. So, because it would make it interesting too then, if they get 5 yards and you're at like the opponent's 45, do you punt or do you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
makes it really interesting. There's a lot more, you'd probably see a lot more going for it on fourth down if you in overtime if you change the rules like that. But
There's
yeah,
going to be
if
even more of those like analytics people weighing in their thoughts.
oh
And
boy, they'll
and I
just be
hate
crunching the numbers.
analytics, dude. I hate analytics. I'm so tired of analytics and hearing that word just in itself because you go through and watch the NFL and baseball's the same way these days, but I think baseball's a lot different. NFL, like they're not weighing in the momentum of the game. They're not weighing in like your individual players, the defense's players, who's healthy, who's not. They're just like calling on this nerd with an Excel spreadsheet and saying, if we run on this 4th and 1, shotgun quarterback draw, the odds that we get it are 72%. Let's run it. But like you're not weighing in the fact that like the quarterback twisted his ankle the last play and he's not going to accelerate well and they don't usually run the shotgun and blah blah blah. Like these different factors that like these analytic guys don't understand. And so to see these head coaches that are like football guys just submit to these analytic guys is really depressing.
They see it's the future, Dave. I mean, it changed. Have you seen Moneyball? Excellent movie.
Yeah, I've seen Moneyball, but that's a different sport.
Yeah, but I think analytics, while it does get annoying, I think it has helped, uh, these smaller market teams and these professional sports perform better.
I
That
agree
would be
for
my argument.
I agree for baseball because the Rays use a lot of analytics and it works really well for them.
Yes.
But at the same time, I think when it comes down to it, these analytics, they do a good job of getting people there. But when it's like that moment, you need to put analytics aside and just like you go with your gut and like your
Right.
experience because it's like look back on this is a whole different sport, but baseball, right? The Rays analytics have helped them go from one of the lowest payrolls in the MLB to like success every single year. They made it to the World Series in 2020 against the Dodgers. And if you're watching that game 6 game, Blake Snell was dealing. But since it was coming up to be the third time through the lineup, a lot of the times MLB players, the coaches will pull the pitchers out before they get through the third time in the lineup, usually about like the 6th inning or so, because a lot of the times MLB hitters, their third time up, they're going to have more success on pitchers because they've seen them 3 times now or 2 times now. So they'll pull the pitchers. Blake Snell was at like 90 pitches. He's given up like 1 or 2 hits at this point, and then they pulled him, and the bullpen like gave up a bunch of hits and homers, and they ended up losing that game and losing the World Series. So
Sucks.
I think like in those moments, you got to just sit there and be like, listen, analytics is telling us to pull him, or analytics is telling us to run it up the middle here. But at the same time, like we've been having a ton of success on the pitch or on short yardage pass plays or quarterback sneaks to the outside. Like, don't go with analytics in those crucial moments. And I think that's what a lot of teams struggle with.
Yeah, that's what makes it interesting, I think, because you can also use analytics against people if if they're saying, like you were saying, we have a high percentage if we do this quarterback sneak. And if you're the defense, you're like, okay, there's a 95% shot they're going to QB sneak it. You load the shit out of the box and you get the right push. But I do have two interesting, quick things for you. Analytics say that the hot hand in basketball is not actually a real thing. I don't know if you've heard this. So these mathematicians say that when a guy's made 5 or 6 in a row, he's just as likely to miss the next shot as anyone else on the court.
See, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't care
Yeah.
what kind of studies there are or
Yeah.
who's done the studies. Like Harvard can shove it because if you have Kobe Bryant, he makes 5 threes in a row. I'm gonna give the ball to Kobe Bryant instead of Lamar Odom because the odds that Kobe's confidence helps him make that next shot are much higher than giving it to some scrub.
Yeah. And then the other thing I said, I wanted to ask you about just your opinion. I did read Oh, I forget the name of the book. Oh, it's a podcast. It's by Malcolm Gladwell. It's called Revisionist History, and they talk about the high percentage shot of the granny free throw shot and how people. It's actually much better form wise to shoot it like that, but people don't want to look stupid, so they don't do it. Then they looked at one specific case. There was this basketball player. He was like played in the 70s or 80s, and his free throw percentage was like 20% or something terrible. And he started actually doing just one hand underhand, not like two hand with granny, but one hand underhand. Because what he could do is lean pretty far forward, and he just like kind of lofted up there. His percentage went up to 80%, but everyone was making so much fun of him, he quit doing it after like 2 seasons. But so that's one thing they talked about in this podcast. But then the next thing they talked about, a mathematician, this is what I want your opinion on. He calculated that if NFL teams would not kick field goals and not punt the ball and not kick extra points, they would win on average 2 more games a season. So you always go for it
Never
on fourth
ever
down.
punt or never ever.
Yep. You always go for it on fourth down. So you're never kicking a field goal or punting. And then instead of doing an extra point, you're always going for 2.
See, I'm a big proponent of creating jobs, but I think it would be interesting to see the NFL where they didn't even allow you to punt or kick. And so like they just eliminated punters and kickers completely, except for
Yeah.
maybe kickoffs or something. Um, and uh and so every team had to go for it on fourth down because then you would just eliminate like the choice and it would just be forced. And I think like seeing more offense would be exciting.
Mm-hmm. But do you think, do you think that is true that a team like take the Bears, even if they're a shitty team, do you think if they scrap all that, do you think on average they would win actually 2 more games this season? I think that seems really high to me.
Yeah, I don't think two more games seems like a stretch to me. I think like you have those close games where when they get the points with field goals, that like helps you, ultimately win the game by, a small margin. So look at like the Ravens. Like I guess it depends on the team. If you have a kicker that's like just kicking it off the uprights and like kicking it short or hooking it and pushing it, like I think then yeah, sure, you have a higher chance of scoring touchdowns or converting fourth downs than putting your shitty kicker out there to miss another kick. So, but
Right.
if you have Justin Tucker, like how many games has Justin Tucker won the Ravens? Like
Oh God, yeah.
probably like 100.
I think Justin Tucker may break that whole theory,
One time a couple years ago, it was Robbie Gould's first time back to Soldier Field against the Bears when he was in the 49ers because the Bears didn't pay him. Another one of the biggest mistakes in Chicago Bears history, by the way. But they didn't pay him. First game back to Chicago for the 49ers. He single-handedly beat the Bears. He had 5 field goals and they won like 15-8 or something like that.
Oh, that's good. I never knew that story. That's a good one.
Yeah, that was a swift kick to the balls
Felt good, huh? Hey,
for
what were
Robbie. Yeah.
how did we do on the pick'em last week? Or our locks of the weeks, I mean.
Yeah, good question. Our locks of the week. Uh, I had the 49ers minus 4.5 versus Saints. They covered the spread,
Good call.
and shut out the Saints. You had the Browns plus 3.5 versus Tampa Bay. That was a good call. I don't know if that was your reverse psychology or what, but it worked. And then Bo had Chargers minus 1.5 at Arizona. They won by 1, so that did not cover.
Oh, that is shitty, dude. I saw
So
that one.
on the season, I am 8-4 on locks. You're 7-5, and the guess is 2-8.
Oh my God. That was I saw that. I was like, wow, I got lucky on that one. I didn't watch the game, but
All these
uh,
people that win the pick'ems come on our podcast, and then they just suck at picking a lock for the next week.
I know it's interesting, isn't it? Because Bo just got like, 12 out of 16 right. So and he did well again this week. So one of the games that he picked as his lock is the one he actually got wrong.
Yeah, it's weird how that works.
It's
Um,
interesting.
so do you want to go into big ballers or our locks for next week?
Um, did you write down how did we do on big ballers?
Yeah, I wrote that down as well. So last week I had Treylon Burks. He wasn't necessarily a huge baller, but he did pick up a fumble in the end zone,
That
so that was
hustle
a
play.
touchdown. Hustle
I was
play.
proud of him.
Yeah, he could have easily given up and let Derrick Henry finish the job, but Derrick
Yeah.
Henry fumbles on like the 1 yard line and Treylon Burks jumps on it. He got those fantasy points, so I would say he was a big baller this week. He got about 15 points, I think. You had Isaiah Pacheco. He also has scored a touchdown rushing, so he had a big baller week, I would say. He had about 15 points as well. And then Bo had Pat Mahomes, who, I think that was a loss of a pick because Pat Mahomes had a Pat Mahomes week. Number one, he shouldn't have picked Pat Mahomes. That was against the rules of the BBW. Number two, he had 300 yards passing, and I think one or two touchdowns, which is pretty standard for Pat Mahomes. So Pat Mahomes has the longest streak active in the NFL of 300-yard games.
Really?
Yeah,
How many is it?
I think it's like 7 or 8.
He
It
wasn't
could
in
be
the top 10 of
could be more than it could be more than that actually.
Yeah, I would say I think if you pick Patrick Mahomes, he's got to finish at least in the top 10 overall out of all positions in PPR, and he did not. So I would say I would agree with you. I think if you're going to pick these studs, they got to be in the top 10 minimum, you know?
Yeah, I
So
agree.
I think we'll give Bo a miss on that one, but a great
And for
effort.
for skill players, if you pick them, they have to be in the top 5.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I think I would agree. So my lock of the week, I'm actually going to stick with the Browns games, but I'm not going to take the Browns. I'm going to take the Texans to cover the 7.5 point underdog spread.
Wait, your lock of the week is the Texans plus 7.5 at home against the Browns.
Correct.
They're at home, right?
Texans.
Yeah,
They
it's
are.
at Houston, I think, right?
It is. Yes.
Yeah, that's a good pick. That's a game that's really intrigued me because that's a huge, welcome back party for Deshaun Watson. It's another classic case of the NFL where like a good football player is going to get back on the field and everyone's going to forget about, all the fondling that he did to get himself in trouble in the first place. But he's sat out basically like over a year and a half now. So, he's done his little rehab, emotional rehab. They say he's been doing better. I've always been a big Deshaun Watson fan, on the field. I obviously don't consider what he does off the field. That makes him kind of a shitty person. But looking at him as a football player, I've always loved his game. I'm excited to see him back out there because I just want to see him like, succeed on the field. So that's kind of where I stand on Deshaun Watson.
He is. He's showing signs of progress in his mandatory treatment, though.
Yeah, exactly. He's been putting in the time on and off the field, so you got to tip your cap to Deshaun Watson.
Do you think they said, Deshaun, no more massages? That's probably step one.
Yeah, I think they just have to give him a team issued masseuse and
That's a male.
give him a mail, yeah, because
Big spurly guy,
but who
big
knows?
hairy.
Maybe Deshaun will start to play for bat for the other team, if you know what I'm saying. So he just loves his massages and this is a pretty hot take, but I still stand with Deshaun Watson.
Oh boy, you're just lucky you're not famous. Your ass would be canceled.
Yeah, I know. I
Oh,
know.
you'd be canceled so quick. Yeah.
Obviously, I don't like I could see I can already just see Jenna just shaking in her boots watching this episode and just being pissed. So I'm glad Jenna's not on this episode because there would have been some pretty controversial discussions. But you know what? It's my podcast, my platform. I support Deshaun Watson on the field. I'm not saying I like what he did off the field, but I love Deshaun Watson on the field. So I'm gonna keep rooting for him. Sorry.
Peyton Manning had a scandal as well in college that a lot of people forget about, where he was
Yeah,
doing similar shit.
a lot of people forget about a lot of things. So I think
Yeah.
people are
Bill
going to forget
Kraft.
about Deshaun as soon as he like wins a couple games and when the Browns make the playoffs next year. So
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's bullshit, I think, because if that were you or I asked, we'd be in prison for like 10 years. And just because, and then you have Robert Kraft, just because he's rich as fuck, he can go through a police sting. Like they had his old ass on camera getting a happy ending. And they just say, well, Robert, you're worth so much, just don't even worry about it, Or Deshaun Watson, you can throw a football really well, so it's okay. We forgive that. And the NFL does have a problem, I think, more than any other league because they have a lot of wife beaters as well. A lot of like just violent men, like even Alvin Kamara beat the shit out of that guy. I don't know if you saw the video of that. I don't even know what it was about. I don't know if he said, "Hey, your shoes look ugly," or what started it, but like these guys have some bad freaking tempers, and that's probably part of the reason they're so good at football. But it's like, damn, it seems like the NFL is quick to forgive over shit you do off the field.
well, yeah, I mean they're just like it's really about how much money they can make and putting the biggest names out there, even in controversy, like that even makes them even more money, I think, because more people are talking about it. So, the NFL is a dirty game, but yeah, they're also a smart business. I mean, they're doing pretty well financially, I would say.
But you know what? That's what pissed me off. And then you have a rookie like George Pickens, and he like talks shit to people on the field and like does antics, and they're like, oh, we're really worried about his attitude, so we're not going to
That's where they
draft
draw the
him.
line is
Yeah,
showboating on the field.
oh, he talks shit to refs and the cornerbacks. Oh, yeah, not we can't get him in the first round, even though he's talented as shit. I don't get it. I
Well,
don't
I
get it.
agree. I agree with that. I think it's like a really backwards way of thinking where if like the NFL should allow every player to talk shit to the other team. They should allow showboating. They should allow all this stuff because it would just make it 100 times more exciting. Like, don't let them fight on the field, obviously, like hockey game, because that's just gonna get people injured. But like for people that have like a Randy Moss catch over someone and then they like step over them or like talk shit to them and then they get a 15-yard penalty and they get fined 10 grand. Like that's so stupid because you have
Mhm.
guys like beating their wives and then playing the next week.
Yeah, where's those fines? Did Deshaun Watson even get fined by the NFL for all this shit?
Yeah, like $5 million, but he just signed like a
Okay,
300. He signed like a $300 million contract.
we'll make it all back plus some. Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
Here's my hot take. Even let's just double down on our hot takes. I would take if you could rewind to the 2017 NFL draft. I would still take Deshaun Watson, even with considering everything that he's done and considering that he would have sat out for the Bears for a whole year and then we probably would have traded him. I still would have taken from 2017 to 2020 Deshaun Watson over any other quarterback.
Who else? Mitch Trubisky was in that
Not
class.
not 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 Pat Mahomes, obviously, but like Mitch
Yeah,
Trubisky. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I like that. I think if you just look wise on the field, certainly. But you are right. Like the benefit, he does all this stupid shit. You can still trade him away and get a lot of draft capital and a lot of shit. You can get a lot of stuff for him, even though he has this masseuse problem.
Some teams are gonna look the other way and pay, and give you what you want in the trade for
Yeah.
sure.
Right. So, yeah, I don't think that's actually that hot of a take, because I think a lot of people would Mr. Trubisky or Deshaun Watson. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know, David.
but some people's morals get ahead of them and say, oh, he's
True.
a scumbag. I would have never wanted him on my franchise, but at that point, I would have loved to see him in a Bears jersey for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I guess that's a decent segue into my lock of the week. My lock of the week is the Packers -2.5 at Chicago.
Oh boy.
I think that's we can talk a little bit about that game going into it because it's a big Packers Bears matchup. But every single year, I get my hopes up for the Bears on paper. I think this is the time that they're going to upset the Packers. This is the time that the Bears are going to take home the W. But once again, I think the Packers are still the Bears' daddy for now, and I think the Bears win this game. The Packers
I
win this game. Sorry.
think the Packers. See, that was a Freudian slip. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, like my subconscious really thinks the Bears are win,
Exactly.
but I don't because I get my hopes up every single time for the Bears. And let's look at this game. All right, let's break it down. Why don't we? So going into this game, I am all in favor of the Bears like tank that they've been going on, and it could be an intentional or unintentional tank losing all these games recently. They have themselves in the number 2 overall spot in this year's NFL draft. However, I am willing to give up 3, 4, 5, 6 spots in that NFL draft in order for us to beat the Packers this week. If we can beat the Packers and slide down in the draft, I do not care. There's people all over Bears Twitter that are like, oh, you can't value this win over the Packers more than getting the number 2 pick. Number 2 pick's way more important for the future. I do
No.
not care. I do not like losing to the Packers, and this week is no different. I want to beat the Packers more than anything. I think the Bears getting Justin Fields back this week is huge. I think, Montgomery in the run game has a successful week against that Packers defense, but I just think having Aaron Rodgers out there is going to be too much for us to handle once again.
Um. What overall pick was Mitch Trubisky?
Number 2.
Okay, there we go. You rest your case. So
Yeah,
the
you
second
can't.
overall pick doesn't matter too much, does it?
But the counter argument to that is that the Bears wouldn't be picking a quarterback, or they would be trading back for a team that wants one of those top 2 quarterbacks, C.J.
Yeah.
Stroud or Bryce Young. So you could get a lot of draft capital being the number 2 pick because teams are wanting to trade up and switch with you.
That's true. I think that I would actually agree with your subconscious. I think the Bears squeak it out.
Okay, here's also where I stand on this game is I think it would be way more exciting for the fans and for the NFL is if since Justin Fields is coming back, I wish that the Packers would sit Aaron Rodgers and start Jordan Love because it would almost be like a glimpse into the future, you know?
For
Obviously,
both
like,
teams.
yeah, for both teams, it would be like, okay, this is what this Bears Packers matchup is going to look like for the next decade. You know, we both hope that that's the case because we want our quarterbacks to stick around and we want them to be the guy. So for Aaron Rodgers to limp back out there is just a total loss on all ends because number one, he could just go out there and be Aaron Rodgers against the Bears and beat the Bears and embarrass them again. Number two, he could go out there and get even worse injuries. Number three, he could go out there and the Bears could win and he could just say, well, I have a broken hand and my oblique hurts. And that's just lame. Like, I say Aaron Rodgers should just swallow his pride, sit out, put Jordan Love in there, and let's have like a good old fashioned showdown. See what happens.
The showdown. And I do agree with that. I don't know what they're going to do with Rodgers, if they'll keep him or trade him, but I do think this is just a slump for him. I really don't think that this is going to be the last you will hear of Aaron Rodgers. I think if he plays at the Packers next year or if he gets traded, I think he'll do extremely better than he did this year. Uh, that being said, I wouldn't be upset if they traded him because I think you're at a point right now where you could still get a bit of draft capital for him. You know, you can still get something for him. I think if you want to trade him at the end of his contract, or say you hold him till he's a free agent, then you potentially get nothing.
Yeah, I don't think they do that unless he like I don't know. I agree with you. I don't think this is the end of Aaron Rodgers, and I think that
No, no,
people that think it's the end just don't realize how injured he's been this year and
yeah,
like how checked out emotionally and mentally he's been. So I think for Aaron Rodgers, he's probably going to come back to the Packers and he'll be healthier, and their wide receivers will be another year older, and maybe they'll get a free agent receiver. Like I don't think this is the end of Aaron Rodgers. And do you think if he does get traded, which I doubt will happen, where do you think, who do you think are big suitors for him? Because the Broncos were a big suitor last season, but now they filled that void. So who do you think, steps up?
yeah. I think a cool one would be the Raiders to see him reunited with Devontae, but I don't think they have that kind of money, so I don't think that's a possibility. Um, I know he's from the West Coast. I don't know if he could potentially go because I think Geno Smith is a free agent. Maybe he goes to one of those teams out west, like Seattle or maybe Los Angeles. I don't. They may not move on from Matthew Stafford, anyways. But I think like where he wants to go, that I don't know. Someone I was talking to was telling me, "Oh, Aaron Rodgers loves Green Bay. He loves living in Green Bay," and I don't completely buy that
Here's
myself.
here's here's an interesting wrinkle that I want you to see what you think. I think a good fit for him would be, and I don't know anything about their draft capital, what they can give up, or their salary cap, all that crap. But I think an interesting fit would be New Orleans. I think plugging him in, he's better than Drew Brees, and Drew Brees had
Yeah,
a ton of success down there. He would go in there with an Alvin Kamara at running back, a really good defense every single year. The
great
defense is
receivers.
always good, really good like young talented receivers and like Chris
Yeah.
Olave, Jarvis Landry, a healthy Michael Thomas maybe. So I think that would be a really interesting fit for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be an interesting spot to land. I'm
And
looking
their
at
division is shit. Sorry to interrupt you, but the Buccaneers obviously
oh yeah.
they're a relevant team, but like they're struggling lately, and Tom Brady's obviously on the cusp of retirement, so they're going to be pretty much nothing when Kyle Trask steps in. And then you have the Carolina Panthers, who I think will be better next year, but they obviously suck this year. The Atlanta Falcons, who I love you, Marcus Mariota, but their team isn't very good. So I think like he could step in there and have immediate success.
Yeah, I guess looking at the AFC, there's not many teams I see that would like are in the market for a new quarterback. I don't think the Colts are gonna do the old man experiment for a fourth time because really hasn't worked out for them. But I could see maybe the Texans, but I don't know if he would want to go there. I just don't.
Ah,
Texans Raiders. I don't see like the Jaguars or the Patriots or the Chargers moving on from who they currently have.
no, I think the Patriots move on to Bailey Zappi faster than they move on to somebody outside the organization.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think the Raiders would be my number one choice if I were to pick one team that I predicted. But since you said that, I thought I'd throw in another wrinkle in there.
Yeah. Okay. So you pick them. I will take.
What about this? What if the Broncos and Packers make a trade and they swap quarterbacks, Russell Wilson for
I
Aaron
wouldn't mind that.
Rodgers?
I
Yeah,
wouldn't
I think
mind that.
they both could use a different change of scenery,
Yeah.
switch it up and see what happens. And I think Russell Wilson, he played at Wisconsin for a year, so it could
Yeah.
be kind of interesting to bring him back.
And I don't hate Russell. I don't really know much about him, so I don't hate him. But it just seems people that follow NFL more closely than me don't like Russell Wilson. But I don't really like. I think he might be another one that's just having a down year. I don't think that with how much success he's had, and he's not that old. I think he's younger than Aaron.
He's definitely younger than Aaron, yeah, by like 4 or 5 years. I bet he's like 34.
34. Yes.
Aaron Rodgers
So
is like what, 39, 38?
38, I bet. Oh, 39. Oh, his birthday was 2 days ago.
Yeah, just turned 39.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
you're
think
right.
the Packers or the Broncos now with the success that Russell Wilson's had this year or lack thereof, they'd have to throw in, a first round pick or something with Russell Wilson. So I don't know if the Buccaneers are willing to do that, but that's something that you have to consider too. The stock of even with the age discrepancy, I think Aaron Rodgers is a much better quarterback than Russell Wilson, which is
Yeah. Yeah. You're probably right. But yeah, I mean, he wouldn't be a bad trade option to get us like a quarterback that can be a game manager and not lose you the game, be a decent trade. Let me share my screen. Let's just take a quick look at the
I think
playoff picture.
I think he would be a good fit there in Denver, Aaron Rodgers. I think he needs to
Yeah,
change his scenery. He needs the legal marijuana and just let him ride.
he does. He does. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can. So
Okay,
for
so
those
here's a
listening on the podcast version, John pulled up it's the playoff picture right now. So there's all the seedings that are laid out in the AFC and NFC, and then teams that are in the hunt or in the bubble.
Yeah, of note, very interesting. The NFC East currently has 4 teams. So they have the Eagles winning the division and 3 of the wild card spots. The AFC East has 3 teams. They have the Bills winning the division and the Dolphins and Jets getting 2 wild card spots, with the Patriots just on the outside looking in. So the dominant divisions, it's just interesting this year how dominant those 2 divisions are.
Yeah,
Period.
both the East divisions, AFC and NFC. Yeah, they've really been playing well, top to bottom.
The AFC West, which was predicted to be the best division this year by all the pundits and ex-players and ex-coaches, has the Chiefs as the number 1 seed overall. They perform well. That's not a surprise. And the Chargers are just on the bubble, but then the Raiders and the Broncos are very far off from
In the hunt, baby. They're in the hunt.
yeah. So the lesson we can learn there is maybe don't always listen to the pundits. Although they speak loudly, they may not know what they're talking about. What do you see here? Because how the playoffs go for people that don't follow it as closely, I think only the 1 and 2 seed get buys. Is that correct? Or is it just the
Yeah.
1 seed that gets a buy? No.
They've recently changed the NFL playoffs, but I think the 1 and 2 still get a bye.
Let me look that up. I think
Just the 1 seed actually should probably get a bye because there's an odd number of teams.
I think you're right.
Yeah, because now that there's 7, only the number 1 overall seed gets a bye, I think.
Yeah, it's only the number 1 overall, which the Packers got last year, I believe, and then pissed it away to the 49ers.
Well, I think last year there was 6 teams, I think. So the top 2 seeds got a bye. Who cares? It doesn't matter.
Okay, so currently we're looking at the Chiefs and the Eagles getting buys.
Yeah.
No, last year just the 1 seeds got a bye.
Oh, there were 7 teams last year too.
There was.
Okay.
Yep. So, so this year, Are you feeling good about the Chiefs and Eagles holding on to those top spots?
And that's an interesting little wrinkle too that you just showed is that not only did the Packers, choke in the second round, but the Titans did too. They had the number one overall seed in the AFC and they lost to Cincinnati in the first round or the
So the
second round.
number one overall seed might be a curse.
It might be, yeah. Having a bye, sometimes always isn't the best. It's nice to get healthy, but you lose that momentum.
Do you think the Chiefs and Eagles hang on to those?
I think the Vikings are going to be a pretty strong contender to take that one seed from the Eagles. They have a pretty weak remaining schedule, I think, other than like the Jets that they play this week. I think they play the Bears one more time. They play the Lions twice, the Packers once, maybe. So I think their remaining schedule is pretty easy. And then obviously the Eagles will have to play their own division a couple times, and that's a really tough division. So I think that that's not out of the question yet. But I think the Vikings are the only team to challenge the Eagles for that one seed in the NFC.
I agree. And you are correct. They have the easiest schedule of any team in the NFL going forward.
Yeah. On the AFC side of things, I think the Chiefs probably hang on to the one seed, and that's a pretty strong advantage for them because they'll have home field advantage and Arrowhead gets crazy. But I think the Bills, they have a chance to contend for that. But the Bills divisions, again, they've been a lot stronger. They're gonna have to play their own division a couple times. So I think the Chiefs hold on to the top seed there.
Okay. Now talking about the bubble, teams on the bubble. Do you think there's any that slide in? Let me pull it up so you can see like the top 4 teams on the
Yeah, there you go.
bubble, and then the 3 wild card spots.
Yeah, good question. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Seahawks finish this season, but I think, with their current roster construction and how they've been playing, I like the Seahawks to kick the Washington Redskins out there and
I
bump them
agree.
up for the seventh seed. I don't think the Falcons, take that spot. I don't see the Lions winning enough games to take that spot, but good turnaround year for the Lions. You gotta pat yourself on the back if you're Detroit and Dan Campbell moving into next year. But I think the Seahawks do edge out the Redskins in that seventh seed. And on the AFC, it's much more interesting. I think, the Jets, if they keep Mike White in there, I think that they hold firm there. But I think if they try to try to get that quarterback back in there and see how Zach Wilson can do, I think the Chargers do squeak out that seventh seed in the playoffs and finish in the playoffs on the AFC. What do you think?
Yeah, I like to I would tend to agree with you. I think they have a really good shot, both of those teams, because they have weak divisions. I mean, you can see their matchups for this week. It's kind of small, but the Seahawks play the Rams, who don't have Matt Stafford. They have, I don't even know the backup's name. And then the Chargers play the Raiders. So I
Bryce
think both of
Perkins.
those, yeah, yeah, you're right. Bryce Perkins on the Rams, but both of those teams have an easy matchup this week, and both the Jets and the Command, they are the Commanders. Yes, the Jets and the Commanders, they have harder schedules going forward than.
Ag- Agreed. And the Mike White experiment, it's always like a flash in the pan kind of exciting thing, but are we going to bank on Mike White like winning out? And I think for the Jets to keep that spot, I think they might have to win out. So that's going to be something that's going to be interesting to see unfold. I think the Jets have a really good defense. Their offense looked a lot better last week, but it was against the Bears, and Mike White was in there, kind of just like a new exciting thing. I think the players are really getting behind him. But the Chargers, I'm gonna take their experience over the Jets. The Jets are kind of in a control their own destiny position where you see them there, but I see the Chargers squeaking them out too.
Okay, now the next thing I would like to do is, we don't have to wager money on it. We can if you want. I would like each of us to pick a team from the East or from the AFC and the NFC to make it to the Super Bowl, so we each have a team to cheer for. And you
Okay.
got to stick with it. So whoever you're picking, you got to stick with in the playoffs. You can't just switch.
Um, okay. Well, looking at the NFC, I'm gonna go with my team that I'll ride with throughout the playoffs is gonna be the 49ers. I feel
Okay.
good about the weapons that they have. Their record's not amazing right now, but they're leading their division, as you can see. Um, they have Jimmy Garoppolo, who's not going to go out there and like shock the world, but I think he's a really good game manager and he'll kind of minimize his mistakes. And I think that their defense is strong and they're only getting healthier. And those skill players are going to kind of propel them through the NFC side of things and make it to the Super Bowl. Who's your NFC
I
pick?
I will go with the Eagles simply because I like Jalen Hurts. I like watching him play, and 2, I have his rookie card. So that the better he does, the price of his rookie card on eBay goes up a little bit. So I will be riding with the Eagles and Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. So yeah, I think, but it's going to be wide open. I think the Buccaneers suck in the NFC, and I think the
I think the Giants
Commanders.
suck too. Here's my bold take. I think the Giants are overrated.
Yeah.
I'm gonna rewind on my pick from earlier. I think the Seahawks beat out the Giants for the wild card spot. I think the Commanders bump up, and the Seahawks bump into the Giants spot.
Okay, but you will be riding with the 49ers in the playoffs.
I'll be riding with the 49ers on the NFC side of things. I'll let
Okay.
you pick first in the AFC since I picked first in the NFC.
Okay, AFC. Um, I like a good underdog, and I've been told one time on a flight home from Tennessee, I got told that I look like Ryan Tannehill. So I'm gonna go with the Tennessee Titans. I think that I can see any of these teams, honestly, in the AFC getting to the Super Bowl, maybe besides the Jets. I mean, I'd love to see the Jets. I actually wouldn't be that upset. Um, but any of those teams, honestly, out of all of them, I think the Jets and the Ravens are probably the weakest.
Yeah, you look a little bit like Ryan Tannehill. I think if he's been like sick with like a
Yeah.
a terminal illness for the last 6 months.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah,
But
that's accurate.
if I'm gonna pick one team, I like that pick. I was intrigued by the Titans too. I think that they have a chip on their shoulder from last year being the one seed, and I think
Yeah.
when you're the one seed, you have a lot of pressure. And when you're like an underdog that people aren't really looking at, then you can just kind of come out there and just punch people in the mouth. So a team I'm going to pick is going to be a team that had a lot of recent success and a team that's getting healthy at the right time and starting to pick up and click at the right time. I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC.
Wow.
I think the Bengals, they've been playing better lately. They're getting Jamar Chase back this week. They go to I actually don't remember where. I think it's in Cincinnati where they play the Chiefs. So that's going to be a huge game for them this
Exciting
this
game.
this weekend. Yeah, it's going to be a big tell to see if they can really contend with those top teams. But the Bengals are getting hot at the right time, and I think that their recent experience is only going to help them, have more confidence to get through the playoffs.
And going back to that, the Titans have the AJ Brown revenge game against the Eagles.
AJ Brown revenge game, yeah.
So a lot of
Um,
great matchups this week.
yeah, a lot of really good matchups. You got the 49ers Dolphins, that's another top matchup.
Yep.
So it's going
Jets
to be a
Vikings
good.
could be good.
Yeah, Jets Vikings, great game. It's going to be a great NFL Sunday. So why don't we get to it? Let's get excited here for these games and let's move forward.
Yeah. Hey, nice talking with you. I hope the do you want to tell people where you're going? You're going to be watching a live basketball game this afternoon as well.
Yeah, you want to stop sharing your screen?
Oh, sorry.
You got you got our extensive agenda up there on your Gmail account.
Boy, that's all the trade secrets right there.
So I know it's NFL Sunday, but I am going to the Creighton versus Nebraska basketball game today. It's a big rivalry, in-state rivalry, where Nebraska comes from Lincoln and comes and plays top 10 team in Creighton, who's
Yeah.
just tripped up a few times this season against number 2 Texas recently, and then earlier in the season in Maui they lost to a really tough Arizona team. So it's going to be a pretty exciting game. I really want to wager a bet, so hopefully Jackie will text me back, and I'm looking forward to that game.
Yeah. No, that should be fun. I would if I was there, I'd be cheering for the even though they're a bigger school, I'd be cheering for the Cornhuskers because I'm sure the Creighton's got to be favored, right?
Yeah, they're favored by 14 and a half.
Holy shit, man. I don't know about that. Are you going Huskers if you would bet?
I'm trying to take the over actually. It's at
Oh, okay.
140 and a half, and I could see the over hitting, but I just want to root for points because I don't really know who to root for. Like you said, Nebraska, it would be fun to root for the underdog in this situation, but at the same time, going to a basketball game and rooting for the away team is such a terrible experience. Like, remember when we went to that Michigan State Iowa game, and I
Yeah.
wagered
You
I
bet on
wagered
Michigan
heavily
State.
on Michigan State, and they lost by like 30 to Iowa. So that was a terrible experience. I don't really want to go through that again.
Well, you learned your lesson. A lot of guys wouldn't learn their lesson. So we'll remember those our playoff picks to make the Super Bowl, and I hope the Bears perform well for you. I didn't get to say it, but I think they are going to run the ball down the throats of the Green Bay Packers, and they will have success.
Oh yeah, we didn't pick a big baller for this week. I
Oh
think I
shit!
got it. I got your big baller from Nick's podcast. If you want me to take that.
No, I got a different one. He's on my team.
Because
He's a
actually,
rookie.
when you picked your big baller, he was mine until I just edged out this guy. So the guy that I edged out, I'm gonna go with David Montgomery this week. I think the
Nice.
Packers run defense has been really struggling
Okay.
lately, and I think Montgomery usually does well against the Packers, even if they do have a good run defense. So I look for the Bears to rely heavily on the run game, with Justin Fields getting back with that shoulder injury, and I think Montgomery really has a lot of success today.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with Kyron Williams. He's a rookie running back from Notre Dame that plays at the Rams. Last week he got 70% of the snaps. They have that Bryce Perkins as the backup. I think he'll be looking to dump the ball off a lot to Kyron Williams. So in PPR leagues especially, he'll do really well.
Who do they play this week?
They play Seattle. So they'll be passing a lot.
I like that pick, and that's the definition of a big baller pick right there. Hopefully Kyron Williams can get in the double digit frame and be a BBW for you. Another guy, just honorable mention. Well, this will be my guest pick this week. T. Higgins. I think T. Higgins has a big week against the Chiefs. They're going to be throwing the ball down the field. You have Jamar Chase coming back, so he's going to get a lot of attention. But I think T. Higgins has a lot of success this week when everybody's focused on Jamar Chase.
That's like a Pat Mahomes pick, just for the
Yeah, it
record.
is. It is. That's why
If
I
he's
didn't.
if he's top 5 though, we'll give it to you.
That's why I didn't do it as my official pick. My official pick is
Okay.
David Montgomery.
All right. Well, wish you the best in the pick'em and enjoy the Cornhusker. Are they the Blue Jays?
Yeah, the Creighton Blue Jays. Yeah.
Okay. Enjoy the Cornhusker Blue Jay matchup.
All right, thank you. Yeah, everyone have a great NFL Sunday. Thank you all for listening and paying attention to Amateur Hour Podcast. This is episode 13. Have a good week, everybody.
Have a good week.